Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome, listeners, to another show on Connect with the Quran. And today I'm just going to continue straight. We took up the topic of stories being a way of guidance. We left off where we were looking at the purpose of the Quran. The Quran itself talks about that it's a hidayah, it's for hudal linnas, for all of mankind. And the fact that what I reiterated last time is when we talk about Tawheed, Risala, and Akhirah, is that Akhirah is our main goal. So that is where the focus, time and again, yes, it talks about the stars, the moon, the sun, everything, but all are subtle reminders for you to the ultimate reality, to who your creator is, and who do you take the blueprint of living from is from your Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I think I like to always bring in the fact that we need to catch our children, to leave them a legacy as young as they are, and to instill in them that your best icon when they talk about this, whatever, whoever they value at school or in the sports field or whatever, your best icon is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the one you should be emulating. So, and because we talked about stories being a way of guidance, and one of the first stories that are mentioned in the Quran are, in very brief, of Adam alayhi salam with Iblis, and highlighting how they both disobeyed in that he ate the fruit, but he did it out of forgetfulness, Adam alayhi salam, and his immediate reaction was to ask for forgiveness, and even the words were, ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين, and a few other versions of Ya Allah, you forgive us, otherwise we will be among the lost. So there was an immediate sense of repenting, whereas Iblis and immediately had it an arrogance. Why should I bow to what you told me to? I am made of this and he is made of that. So the arrogance element surfaces, and the other thing, the stubbornness of, he also adds elsewhere in the when the story is repeated in other places, he says, you put me in the wrong. So that relates, and we need to bring it in with our children, is the blame game. I may have done something, as the children, no, but she did it, but she tripped me, that's why I broke it, or whatever it is. It's all about blame game. So this is what Shaitan had the nerve to blame Allah. And just from there, I'm going to digress a little bit into saying that when, and Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa barik wa sallim alayhi, is that when we, and I've lost the plot there, so I'll leave it for a minute. It was about what the qualities are. But let me just go back to what I was reading last time on stories and giving you in a nutshell all the stories that are in the Quran about these prophets and how they had these defining moments, and it was all by divine decree. So let me just go back into that, and I'll read it again from the beginning, from where I left off not from where I left off, but I'll just reiterate it, is that it says defining moments in divine decree. A man was created in best of molds. Saturn rebelled, pride took hold. Defining moments in our history of man, when Adam fell in Satan's plan. Eating from the fruit, a critical point, put us all out of joint. Cain killed Abel, jealousy took hold. Fitra of man exposed. Again, early on, this is also a blueprint that's coming from the time of Adam alayhi salam, of his sons. And then Noah's Ark, a watershed, after 900 years of all that he said. How he worked hard, how Noah alayhi salam worked hard for 900 years. Then Abraham took on the establishment as he challenged the idols and management. Defining moments of truth and all that was fake, the challenge he threw for them to take. The idols with an axe he broke, then asked them if the idols spoke. Defining moments as Joseph was thrown into the well, from there starts a new spell. Raced to the door to safeguard his honor and landed in jail with all its horror. God's gift of dream interpretation gets him to government representation. Then many defining moments in Musa's life, put in the basket picked up by the Pharaoh's wife. Then one punch and the man is dead, a price is put on his head. He arrived at a watering post, Allah's help he needed most. Instead he helps damsels in distress, then sits in dua against a tree rests. Defining moments in divine decree, he's given the mantle to uphold the deen, to fight the worst tyrant man has seen. Ultimate drama, parting of the sea, the oppressor's end is for all to see. Then defining moments in divine decree, a bonded nation is set free. The wandering in the wilderness is thanks to their disobedience and wilderness. A dua for a dedicated son springs board far onto a grandson. Not only a daughter super special, Isa alayhi salam comes with impeccable credentials. Be and it is, and by divine decree, it paves the way for the final Nabi. Defining moments in the solitude of the cave, to the best of creation the Creator gave. 23 years, a downpouring of guidance, last link, Quranic brilliance. Till the end of time, when the trumpet will chime, defining moments we will surely have. Do we use them to soothe and salve, aligned to divine decree, the Creator's countenance yearn to see? So I was just sharing that because I'd like to think that that kind of encapsulates the messages of where the stories are coming, of the difficulties Yusuf alayhi salam had, Musa alayhi salam had, the kind of people he had to deal with, Nuh alayhi salam's, the 900 years and more that he worked for. So what comes up in these different stories, just in a nutshell I gave you, like with Adam, it was the forgetfulness, and then he repented. With Iblis, it was the arrogance. With Cain and Abel, you can say it was jealousy, and that also is something, a hasad, and inshallah we will do the quls at the end of the Quran, which we read so often, and it is a protection of, Ya Allah, keep me from envy, from pride. The only thing we should be like, we wish to emulate Rasulullah in his action, we admire those who we feel have reached that level better than us. So you do race for goodness, you do compete for goodness, but it's for goodness. And it's not to put anybody down. So that, inshallah, one day we'll also get into the story of Cain and Abel and how that unfolds. And then, so then it was Nuh alayhi salam, then it was Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the brave, and you know, Ibrahim alayhi salam in itself is such a case study, how he argues with people. So, you know, the concept of intellect and of using your brain is intrinsic. We do not have the kind of blind faith, turn the other cheek that we have in Christianity. No, they say, oh, well, that's just matter of faith. Somebody was asked about Trinity and, you know, how it doesn't seem to, and they said, well, that's just faith. That's just whatever, you know. So when they have no answer, they shift to a word where, what else can you say? So no, we have tadabbur, the concept of pondering over the Quran, and inshallah we'll get to those ayahs as well at the end of Al Imran, if you can have a look. It's a beautiful passage of how we are there to ponder on the ayat of the Quran, of whatever we see around us. So that was with Ibrahim alayhi salam, inshallah, and how he used logic to counter, you know, see the sun, the moon, oh, is this your God or is this your God? Again, reiterating the message of Tawheed there. And then we have the story of, after Ibrahim alayhi salam, we have, I think we've come with, because he's also the fatherhead of the father of the nations, because Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all penetrate from there. And actually, even we can say Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, but essentially all these messengers were on the same, giving you the same message of Tawheed, giving you the same. When we talk about Risala also, it's whoever the Prophet was of that time, he was the one who we were supposed to follow. And Akhirah. So that was in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam in a nutshell. Then we have the story of Yaqub alayhi salam and his son Yusuf alayhi salam. And there too, I think one of the key messages I like to reiterate with young people is that, oh, we're waiting for so long. When's this COVID going to be over? When's this going going to happen? When's that going to happen? Or anything, I've been waiting for the results, or I've applied for this post, it's a government post, they take forever, when are they going to come? Or any hardship we go through, my husband's been unemployed, God forbid, and this and that, and long, is Yaqub alayhi salam. And what did he have? Sabrun jameel, sabrun jameel. And so that was with him. And then after Yaqub alayhi salam, we had Musa alayhi salam and all the challenges he faced with his qawm. And Surah Baqarah, like we talked about, detailed a lot of what the Bani Israel came up to, all their flaws, how they always cribbed and argued, twisted words and all the rest. And this is all a form of guidance. You know, when you see something wrong, you say, well, gosh, we do that too. We're always asking our mother, Mom, which cupboard, where, what? But that's what we do. So with Musa alayhi salam, then came Isa alayhi salam, and then after that, our final Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And they're all messages of how you try to attain guidance, and the guidance for what? For your ultimate abode, which is in the akhirah. But we'll carry on from there, but we do need to go for a short break, so just hang in there and inshallah see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back. And inshallah, we'll get straight into these stories. So I just read you a little poem which gave you a snippet of all the stories that are talked about, just in a nutshell. And it is a beautiful thing to get into stories as a form of guidance. As we know, fairy tales, this and that, but you know, there's nothing as beautiful as sticking to the Quran, getting to the real thing, the real sources, the real messages, what Allah wants to say. And the beautiful thing in all this is, sometimes we get into Yusuf alayhi salam's story. Yes, they were 12 brothers, but what were their names? And you know, we start getting sidetracked. Even with children, if they want to ask, yes, alhamdulillah, through the narratives of Judaism, the Israeliyat, we do have stories of who was the name and different aspects of it. But the beautiful, beautiful thing of the Quran is that it gives it to us in a manner, because it's till the end of times, and already 1400 years today. Now today, what do? We put our presentations on bullet points, on this, on that, subtly this, and then we fill in the blanks in the middle talking or something. So how is the Quran also? It is also in many places, especially in the Makki phase of the Quran, in bullet points. قل الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is how I should have started with. So it's giving it to you in bullet points, and the rest, this is like on Tawheed, and I'm jumping it. Inshallah, we will get into that next time. But it gives you in a nutshell, but it wants you to get to the message. These are the stories of the prophets that I gave you in a nutshell of what is being talked of in the Quran, and we need to take it home for ourselves and for our children. And the beauty is, the sooner you catch the child, the sooner you're able to be talking with them about these stories, the better they can retain it. Many times, you know, somebody said, how on earth do you remember the stories? I said, because my grandmother read it to me when I was a child, you know, and it was in the formative years from 7 to 9 to 12, whatever. And also, you know, like we want to hear well, I won't even mention them, but some, you know, stories of supposedly moral stories from the fairy tales or something, of how children are happy to listen to the same story. So why can't I be telling them always Yusuf alayhi salam's story from different angles? I'm just keep reiterating Yusuf alayhi salam's story because it is one of the few surahs which has like a chronological sequence to how the story begins and where it's going to, interspaced always with the message of akhirah, of remembering how he remembered his akhirah, and how at the end the message is, the story is to give you solace of sad, and how after maybe 40 years, it's not in the Quran that it was 40 years of a time lapse between Yaqub alayhi salam's sorrow and of doing sabrun jameel, that he gets to see his son again. Whatever the time span, for in Allah's mashiach, the time span was not important. Telling you who the brothers was not important. What is important was the message of how impeccable he behaved, Yusuf alayhi salam, no matter what the condition was. That is what's being highlighted. Similarly, in the stories of Musa alayhi salam, but everything we want to get into always external details. And like I said, the main person, or what I would love to help myself be strong on, and is your mindset. What is your mindset? Where are you diverting into? I hear something, you will have all witnessed this, that you're talking about something, somebody enjoyed you, whatever, biryani, whatever, and you're giving them the recipe, da 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 da, and then suddenly said, oh, but can you tell me how do you make tiramisu? And it's like, but we were just talking about this right now. Where did you hear any of the rest details I gave you? No, you're asking. So too, often somebody's talking, maybe it reminds us of something else, and I really want to know, where do you go for the vaccines for something? Or anything totally irrelevant to what was being discussed. So when we have the story of in Surah Kaf of the seven sleepers, I'm just using the Western term, the Ashab al-Kahf, the seven, we just say it's the seven sleepers. But the fact is that Allah didn't mention. He said some say there were 5 and the 6th was the dog, some say there were 7, the 8th was the dog, some say there were 3 and the 5th was the dog, or the 4th was the dog. What does that do? It's that we want to know something which Allah chose to consider not worth knowing. Yes, if you're doing a PhD or you're writing a research paper and you want to go into all these Israeliyats and find the names of those 4 young, 7-year or whatever young lads who came away to safeguard their honor, there. And in that same very story, there are a few things. They slept for 900 years and add 10, so however many that was, that's all he said. But how many they were, for how long they slept, was not as significant as how Allah safeguarded them, how He valued what they wanted, that He safeguarded them, kept them sleeping for so long, and when they came up, and so on. And in that same surah, we have the story of Khidr. I'm already saying Khidr alayhi salam, whereas the name Khidr alayhi salam with the story of Musa is not given. So it was one of our person who in the love from us was given knowledge. So for us to then go into the detail of where he was, how he is, that is not pertinent to what the lesson was. The lesson was that somebody as Musa alayhi salam, who was the Rasul and Nabi of his time, even he went and he heard that there's somebody, I need to get knowledge of the unseen or of the subtle things, so that's what he was given. So what am I driving at? That when you read the stories of the prophets, try and keep it as close to the bone as you possibly can. These extras that we keep adding are not always significant to get the message across. Because like I said, Allah created us, He knows our fitrah, our blueprint. He has given us the Quran, which best suits our ability to receive guidance in different ways, through stories, through look at the ayat around around you. Doesn't everything, how does the butterfly come out of a caterpillar? You try to pull it out and it loses, it doesn't grow. Everything, and so you can get into science and you can learn all those things. These are all secondary things which alhamdulillah people have benefited from, but the main purpose of all that is the guidance. So yes, subhanallah, learn how Allah creates, what's in the womb, what's the tree, how the water comes down from and gives dry land its nourishment, and things then come alive. So back to use stories to tell children and empower them from the very beginning, that instead of giving a story of whatever we get, and because we are flooded with social media, flooded with one story happens, somewhere an earthquake happens, and you just see it everywhere. So it would be lovely if we can just keep reiterating to our children, well, did you remember, do you know what Musa alayhi salam did then? And do you know what happened then? So those are the kind of things that we need to take lessons from, and then for yourself. And now, because there is just so much information there, you can, before we used to have an index at the back of the Quran and go through that and check how many times is Musa alayhi salam mentioned, how many times is something else mentioned. So inshallah in next sessions I will give you, there's a beautiful website uh, I don't know if it's an app. It's for me. It's just a website. It's called Corpus Quran, and it gives you the whole Quran word by word. So whether you want to know individual words, but then that same word, if bala comes up, it will, and you click on it, it will take you where all the time, not only the word bala, but all its derivatives appear in the Quran. So it's like a whole big huge page in every ayah, whatever. So you will find ibtila there. So while bala means means something bad, a calamity, when it becomes ibtila, it becomes also opportunity for growth. So that's one way of enhancing your Arabic and getting to know it. And now I'm just going to go back and recap again that, with the Quran is we need to take ownership, and I need to know it. And so like I've shared with you before, that at age 40, I sort of said, I'm too old. Where am I going to learn the Arabic? What's going to happen? And my teacher said, yeah, and what if you live till you're 80? You will have spent exactly half your life, 40 years, thinking you're too old, and so you're not doing anything. So in fact, the sooner we can start with the children, get them, but and time and again you will hear, it's never too late. It's the effort that counts, and Allah will put barakah in our time. Many people late in the years can memorize, can know the Arabic in a shorter span of time than a longer span of time. We have reverts coming to the deen, and they talk about how they feel they've missed out so much, and they've lost so much, so how do they gain it? So Allah gives you that strength, gives you the spirit, but you need to come there with the intention. And again, I'm reiterating what we said before, that attention it determines your intention. So where is my attention? Is my attention always in the kitchen? Is it always here, or is it always in the football, or is it over wherever? And then where are you going to get time? And we talked about the data. Our minds are full of stuffed with data, with rubbish data. I'm going to talk about myself in first place. And then if that data and that worry wasn't there, which brand, and this is what marketing and what the West and what branding and what all that does. It just floods you, and invariably you learn it. So inshallah, next time we'll get into what Tawheed, how that is a form of guidance of knowing your Rabb and taking it further from there. Because time and again, we're going to come back to the idea that the purpose of the Quran is guidance and how He gives it. Today, the past 2 times, we've done it on stories, but we will take it from there. So, Jazakallah khair. And till we see you next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.